The flickering glow of monitors cast long dancing shadows across the gaunt face of Dr. Aris Thorne. His remote observatory, perched precariously on a windswept peak, was a fortress against the world he had once sought to conquer. Now it was a sanctuary for a brilliant mind scarred by a monumental public failure that had shattered his career and his spirit. Dust motes danced in the anemic light, testament to countless sleepless nights spent hunched over consoles, meticulously sifting through endless streams of cosmic data. Aris was searching, not for redemption, but for a sign, any sign, that his intuition, once lauded then reviled, was not entirely broken. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months, each sunrise a cruel reminder of his isolation. Then, amidst the predictable hums and static of deep space, a whisper. Faint, almost imperceptible, a peculiar radio frequency began to register on his most sensitive receivers. It wasn't the rhythmic pulse of a pulsar, nor the chaotic roar of a supernova. It bore no resemblance to the known artificial chatter of earthbound satellites. It was different, an anomaly. His initial excitement was quickly met with familiar derision from former colleagues he dared to contact. Their voices, laced with thinly veiled pity and professional scorn, echoed the past. "Equipment malfunction, Aris," one had droned. "Just cosmic background noise, old friend, nothing more." Another dismissed. They saw a man clinging to straws, desperate for vindication. But Aris, with an unwavering conviction that bordered on obsession, knew better. This wasn't noise. This was deliberate. This was a pattern. He pored over the data, his fingers flying across keyboards, his eyes scanning complex algorithms. The frequency was so subtle, so intricate, it defied easy categorization. He felt a deep, almost primal connection to it, as if it were a lost melody finally reaching his ears. Then a crucial, almost imperceptible shift, a tiny deviation in the wave pattern, a subtle emergent code. It was like watching a single pixel change color on a vast black screen, insignificant to the casual observer, but a universe to the one who had been staring at it for so long. The anomaly consumed him. Meals were forgotten. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford. His small, isolated haven became both his prison and his laboratory. The potential for a groundbreaking discovery, a revelation that could redefine humanity's place in the cosmos, fueled his relentless pursuit. He felt the weight of his past failure pressing down, a constant gnawing reminder of the data misinterpretation that had cost lives, not just careers. The memory of the public humiliation, the scathing headlines, the hushed whispers propelled him forward, a desperate need to prove his intellect, his worth. As he delved deeper, the frequency began to yield fragments. The first hint of a hidden message emerged from the static, a single repeating numerical sequence, simple yet profound. And then, a chilling thought began to take root in his mind. The frequency seemed to be responding to his attempts to decode it. A subtle alteration here, a slight modulation there, as if acknowledging his presence, his efforts. Could something be actively communicating? Or worse, could something be actively observing him? The implications sent a shiver down his spine, a mixture of terror and exhilarating wonder. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The numerical sequence, once a cryptic whisper, now began to unfurl into decipherable fragments. Aris, his mind a whirlwind of calculations and theories, managed to extract a set of coordinates. His heart pounded with a mixture of triumph and confusion. These were not the coordinates of any known celestial body. No star cluster, no distant galaxy, nothing catalogued by human astronomy. They were precise, undeniably pointing to a location. Yet that location seemed to exist outside the known universe, a point in space that our current understanding deemed utterly impossible to reach. The sheer audacity of such a signal, transmitting unreachable destinations, both fascinated and frustrated him. Realizing the profound linguistic complexity embedded within the nascent message, Aris knew he needed expertise beyond his own. He reached for his old contact list, his finger hovering over a name he hadn't dared to call in years, Professor Anya Sharma. Anya, a renowned linguist whose brilliance was matched only by her sharp wit, had been his mentor during his formative years, a guiding light before his spectacular fall from grace. Their history was fraught. His scandal had cast a long shadow, tainting even those associated with him. He braced himself for her inevitable coldness, the professional distance she would surely maintain. Anya's initial reluctance was palpable, a wall of polite but firm dismissal. She cited prior commitments, a heavy workload, anything to avoid revisiting the painful memory of their last collaboration. Yet, Aris's insistent, almost desperate plea, coupled with the intriguing, albeit vague description of an unprecedented pattern, eventually piqued her intellectual curiosity. He sent her the raw data, the repeating numerical sequence, the impossible coordinates. He waited, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach for her verdict. Her response when it came was a single curt email requesting a secure video conference. The coordinates, she explained, were indeed baffling, seemingly pointing to an uncharted region of space, a theoretical impossibility for any contemporary spacecraft. But it was the numerical sequence itself that had truly captivated her. She recognized a hidden linguistic structure, an underlying grammar that defied modern classification. It hinted at something ancient, perhaps a forgotten language, woven into the very fabric of the numbers. Her voice, though still tinged with professional reserve, carried a spark of genuine intellectual excitement. As Aris and Anya collaborated, the message within the frequency began to evolve in unsettling ways. It wasn't just transmitting data, it was adapting, incorporating elements that seemed deeply personal, almost as if it had access to Aris's innermost thoughts and memories. A specific date, a childhood nickname only his late mother had used, a fleeting image of a long-lost pet, details that sent shivers down his spine. It was as if the signal was speaking directly to him, not just to humanity. Anya, ever the pragmatist, grew increasingly uneasy. Aris, she stated during one of their late-night sessions, her brow furrowed with concern. This is too precise, too personal. Are you certain this isn't a sophisticated hoax? A psychological operation designed to exploit your vulnerabilities? Her words cut deep, stirring the embers of his past failure. He remembered the data misinterpretation, the disastrous miscalculation that had led to the loss of a research vessel and its crew, the public outcry that followed. That singular catastrophic event had not only cost lives, but had also stripped him of his credibility, leaving him a pariah in the scientific community. The memory was a raw wound, and Anya's suggestion felt like salt rubbed into it. No, Aris retorted, his voice strained. It's not a hoax. This is real. This is profound. He clung to his conviction, refusing to believe that this extraordinary phenomenon, this potential turning point for humankind, could be reduced to a cruel trick. Yet, even as he defended its authenticity, a cold dread began to creep in. The unreachable coordinates, initially dismissed as an interstellar destination, suddenly clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Anya, tracking the signal's origin point, gasped. The impossible coordinates weren't light years away. They were right here, within Earth's own solar system, but hidden, cloaked by some unknown means, awaiting discovery. The signal wasn't leading them to the stars, it was leading them to something concealed, something very close to home. The revelation hung heavy in the air, a chilling truth that redefined their entire understanding of the signal. The frequency, once a beacon from the impossibly distant, was now a summons from the impossibly close. Aris and Anya, their initial awe replaced by a gnawing apprehension, raced against time, their fingers flying across keyboards, their minds churning through algorithms and ancient texts. The frequency intensified, its rhythmic pulse growing stronger, more insistent, as if urging them forward. The message, no longer subtle and fragmented, now coalesced into a coherent narrative, speaking not of distant galaxies, but of a hidden legacy, a secret kept for centuries beneath the very crust of their own world. Anya, her linguistic brilliance shining through the layers of cryptographic complexity, discovered a profound and unsettling link. The ancient language elements, which she had initially dismissed as an obscure linguistic anomaly, were not merely decorative. They were the key to unlocking the true source of the transmission. Her research led her down a rabbit hole of forgotten human history, unearthing references to a clandestine civilization, a long-vanished cult that had worshipped a celestial phenomenon, not as a deity, but as a harbinger of change, a cosmic clock. Their texts spoke of a great silence and a whisper of awakening, hinting at a hidden knowledge passed down through generations, waiting for the right moment to resurface. The frequency, now a relentless guide, pulsed with increasing urgency, leading them directly to an old, abandoned research facility. It stood derelict, a ghostly monument to a forgotten era, nestled deep within a remote, overgrown valley, far from prying eyes. Its existence was a well-guarded secret, its history shrouded in whispers and rumors. Local legends spoke of strange lights and unsettling sounds emanating from its depths decades ago, before it was abruptly shut down and sealed. The facility had once been operated by a shadowy organization, a consortium of brilliant but ethically ambiguous scientists who had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only speculation and fear. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the chill of disuse. Cobwebs draped across antiquated machinery, and the silence was broken only by their own cautious footsteps and the ever-present hum of the frequency, now resonating from deep within the facility's core. They found cryptic journals, their brittle pages filled with frantic, meticulous notes and complex schematics detailing experimental energy sources. The scientists, it seemed, had been obsessed with harnessing an unknown power, a force that could transcend conventional physics. The truth, when it finally unveiled itself, was both shocking and profoundly unsettling. The frequency that doesn't exist was not alien, but a dormant human invention. It was a marvel of engineering, designed to communicate across vast distances, not through the void of space, but through an ethereal dimension, a hidden layer of reality. The journals detailed its immense potential, but also its terrifying destructive capabilities. The project had been deemed too dangerous, its power too volatile, and had been abruptly shut down, its existence erased from official records. The scientists, fearing the misuse of their creation, had gone to great lengths to bury their work, creating elaborate safeguards and cloaking devices. But the journals also spoke of a fail-safe, a mechanism to reactivate the signal under specific dire conditions. It was a last resort, a desperate measure to warn humanity if a certain threshold of self-destruction was crossed. Aris, reading the frantic entries, felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. The signal wasn't just communicating, it was warning them. It was a cry for help, an alarm bell ringing across time, triggered by an impending catastrophe that the ancient cult and the reclusive scientists had foreseen. The frequency's intensity spiked, guiding them deeper into the facility's bowels. They followed its insistent pull, their flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness until they reached a hidden chamber. It was unlike any other part of the facility, its walls constructed of an unknown metallic alloy, pulsating faintly with an ethereal unknown energy. The chamber hummed with a low, resonant thrum, a sound that vibrated deep within their bones, a promise of revelation and perhaps of immense danger. This was the source. This was where the signal originated. The chamber's pulse intensified as Aris and Anya stepped inside, the metallic thrum vibrating through their bones, a symphony of latent power. At its heart stood a colossal, intricate device, a marvel of forgotten engineering. It wasn't merely a transmitter, it was a nexus, a conduit to something far greater. As Aris, guided by an instinctual understanding, touched a shimmering panel, the device awoke with a soft, ethereal hum. Holographic images flickered to life, dancing across the chamber walls. They depicted a world teetering on the brink, ancient civilizations collapsing under the weight of their own ambition, environmental devastation, and widespread conflict. These weren't mere historical records. They were warnings, echoes of a catastrophic event that had nearly extinguished life on Earth millennia ago. The failsafe was not a simple alarm. It was a historical archive, designed to play out humanity's self-destructive patterns, triggered by the re-emergence of similar global threats. Anya, her gaze fixed on the ancient script embedded within the holographic projections, felt a profound unease. The language, which she had painstakingly deciphered, spoke not only of warning but of manipulation. The original creators, she now realized, were not the benevolent saviors Aris had envisioned. They were a splinter group, a faction that believed humanity was inherently flawed, destined for cyclical self-destruction. Their journals, once interpreted as desperate pleas for caution, now revealed a chilling truth. The device's true purpose was not just communication, but control. It was designed to nudge, to influence, to subtly redirect the course of civilization, ostensibly for its own good, but ultimately through coercive means. Aris, Anya's voice was barely a whisper, laced with a dawning horror. This isn't a warning. It's a blueprint. They weren't just observing. They were planning. The failsafe isn't just a trigger for historical playback. It's a trigger for something far more profound, something destructive. She pointed to a section of the schematics, a complex diagram that outlined a global energy disruption, a systematic shutdown of all electronic infrastructure. The warning was merely a preamble, a psychological conditioning before the true event. Aris recoiled, his face a mask of shock and denial. His heroic vision of a benevolent ancient intelligence shattered, replaced by the grim reality of ancient authoritarianism. He had seen this as his redemption, a chance to prove his worth, to right the wrongs of his past. Now it felt like he had been a pawn in a far older, more insidious game. The betrayal cut deep, echoing a familiar wound. He remembered a heated argument with his father, a brilliant but morally compromised scientist who had worked on similar, ethically dubious projects, always justifying the means by the end. His father had believed in necessary evils, in controlled chaos for the greater good. Aris had vehemently disagreed, leading to a chasm between them that never fully healed. Was he now repeating his father's mistakes, blindly following a path towards a controlled, manufactured future? Suddenly, the device shuddered violently, its hum deepening into a resonant roar. A new powerful signal emanated from its core, overriding all other frequencies, deafening them with its raw power. The holographic projections flickered, then vanished, replaced by a single pulsing red light. A cold, undeniable certainty settled over Aris. Someone else had been monitoring their progress, someone who knew precisely what they were doing, someone who had been waiting for them to reactivate the device. They were not alone in this chamber, and their actions had just set in motion a sequence of events far beyond their control. The true orchestrator of the frequency that doesn't exist was about to reveal themselves. The air crackled with anticipation, a palpable tension thickening in the chamber as a figure emerged from the shadows. Dr. Elias Vance, his eyes alight with an unsettling fervor, stepped into the device's pulsating glow. His presence was not a surprise to Aris, not entirely. The meticulous planning, the layers of deception, all pointed to a mind intimately familiar with the device and with Aris himself. Vance's smile was chilling, a predatory glint that confirmed Aris's worst fears. He was not merely an observer. He was the puppet master. Vance began to speak, his voice resonating with an almost messianic conviction, each word a calculated strike against Aris's self-doubt. He revealed himself as the true orchestrator of the frequency, a signal meticulously crafted to lure Aris into reactivating the dormant technology. Vance had known Aris's father, had worked alongside him, sharing a dark vision of humanity's trajectory. He understood Aris's past failures, his desperate need for redemption, and meticulously exploited them. You, Aris, Vance declared, were the key. Your brilliance, your unwavering conviction, your very guilt made you the perfect instrument. He saw Aris not as a colleague, but as a lever, a tool to pry open a forgotten power. Vance's motivation, however, transcended mere scientific curiosity. It was a twisted form of salvation. He believed humanity stood on the precipice of irreversible self-destruction, a fate he believed only a drastic intervention could avert. The device, he explained, gesturing grandly towards the humming colossus, is not merely a communication tool. It is a reset button, a global blackout, a systematic dismantling of the very infrastructure that fuels our self-annihilation. It's the only way to save the planet, to force humanity to rebuild, to truly evolve. His words, though chilling, carried a perverse logic, a dark echo of the ancient cult's beliefs. As Vance spoke, the device began to hum ominously, its energy readings spiking to alarming levels. The rhythmic thrum intensified, vibrating through the chamber floor, a prelude to the cataclysm Vance envisioned. Lights outside the facility flickered, then died, plunging the surrounding area into darkness. It was a precursor, a taste of the global blackout Vance intended to unleash. Aris and Anya, their faces etched with a desperate resolve, lunged towards the console, their hands flying across the controls, trying to shut down the escalating power. But Vance, anticipating their every move, was quicker. He activated a series of internal locks, rendering their attempts futile. A tense showdown ensued, a battle of intellect and will. Aris, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose, used his intimate knowledge of the device's schematics, gleaned from the ancient journals, to counter Vance's manipulations. He barked instructions at Anya, guiding her through the complex interface, searching for any vulnerability, any backdoor. Anya, her linguistic genius proving invaluable, scanned the holographic projections that still sporadically flickered, searching for an override code hidden within the ancient script. Her eyes darted across the symbols, her mind racing to decipher the intricate patterns. The device reached critical mass. Across the globe, city lights began to falter, then vanish one by one, painting a terrifying mosaic of spreading darkness. The hum became a deafening roar, the air thick with ozone. Anya's eyes finally landed on a sequence, a delicate string of symbols that pulsed with a faint, almost imperceptible glow. "I have it," she cried. But the console was too far, Vance too close, his hand hovering over the final trigger. In a desperate, selfless act, Aris lunged, tackling Vance away from the console, creating a momentary diversion. The impact sent them both sprawling, but it bought Anya precious seconds. The device screamed, its energy discharge imminent. Anya scrambled towards the console, her fingers trembling as she input the hidden override code, humanity's fate hanging precariously in the balance. Anya, with Aris's desperate act buying her mere seconds, slammed her fingers onto the glowing symbols, inputting the override code just as the device reached its terrifying crescendo. A high-pitched whine filled the chamber, then a violent shudder ripped through the structure. The pulsating red light flickered erratically, then dimmed, finally extinguishing itself. The deafening roar subsided into a low dying hum, and then a profound silence descended, broken only by the ragged breaths of Aris and Anya. The global blackout, the cataclysmic reset Vance had envisioned, was averted. Vance, stunned and disoriented from Aris's tackle, was quickly apprehended. His grand designs, his twisted vision of salvation, lay shattered amidst the quieted machinery. The consequences of his actions, however, would resonate far beyond this hidden chamber. The world had witnessed a glimpse of the abyss, a momentary plunge into darkness that served as a stark reminder of humanity's precarious dependence on technology and the destructive potential of unchecked ambition. Aris lay on the cold floor, severely injured from the struggle, but undeniably alive. His act of selflessness, a stark contrast to his past professional failure, had not only saved countless lives but had also, in a profound way, redeemed him. The heavy weight of guilt that had burdened him for so long began to lift, replaced by a fragile sense of peace. He had faced his demons not by escaping them, but by confronting a far greater evil. The world slowly blinked back into existence. Lights flickered back on, communications restored, and the collective sigh of relief was almost palpable. The existence of such a powerful, dangerous technology, capable of plunging the entire planet into darkness, was now a terrifying reality. It was a secret too profound to remain hidden, a power too great to be wielded by any single entity. In the aftermath, Aris and Anya, their relationship irrevocably mended, found themselves bound by a shared purpose. The estrangement that had defined their mentor-mentee dynamic for so long had dissolved in the crucible of crisis. They dedicated their lives not to harnessing such power, but to understanding and safeguarding such discoveries. Their work shifted from pure theoretical exploration to the ethical implications of advanced technology, advocating for responsible scientific progress. Anya, with her linguistic genius, became instrumental in deciphering the deeper implications of the ancient texts, ensuring that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. Aris, with his profound understanding of the device's mechanics, worked tirelessly to ensure its secrets remained secure and its destructive potential contained. Months later, Aris sat in his now less remote but still tranquil observatory. His body had healed, though the scars remained, tangible reminders of the ordeal. He gazed out at the vast expanse of stars, a deep sense of purpose radiating from him. No longer haunted by the specter of his past, he saw the cosmos not as a source of personal validation, but as an endless tapestry of wonders waiting to be understood, not controlled. His eyes held a newfound clarity, a wisdom forged in the fires of near catastrophe. As he watched, a faint, almost imperceptible flicker appeared on his monitor, a new frequency, distinct from the one that had almost unraveled the world. It was a subtle, unfamiliar pattern, a whisper from the cosmic silence. It was different, yes, but equally enigmatic, hinting at future mysteries, new challenges, and perhaps new opportunities for discovery. Aris smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. His journey was far from over. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, always had another secret to reveal.